Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack the crucial knowledge, the surprising insights, really getting into the source material.
That's right.
And today we're looking at someone whose career path is, well, pretty astonishing proof that it's never too late for a total reinvention. We're talking about Simon Majumdar.
Yes, Simon Majumdar. And when you hear that name, you probably immediately picture him at the judging table.
Absolutely.
Right? You know, the thoughtful critic, sometimes quite funny on those big Food Network shows, Cutthroat Kitchen, Iron Chef. But our mission today, it goes way beyond just the TV stuff.
Yeah.
We're really trying to map out this huge, quite emotional and, very deliberate shift he made in his life. That shift is what made everything else possible.
So we're tracking how he went from being, a successful book publisher in Britain?
Exactly. A book publisher.
To suddenly becoming this globally known food expert.
That's the journey. It's quite a pivot.
In the context here, you mentioned it's important. Our source material gives us this really detailed look at his background, his writing, his TV work, and it reveals a backstory that's, it's really shaped by loss. And then this incredible burst of action afterwards.
Yeah, the defining moment. We have to talk about this right up front because it's so unusual, especially, for becoming an expert in something.
Okay.
The catalyst for his entire career change, it happened later in his life. He was already over 40, back in 2007.
Wow, okay.
And it followed this period of personal tragedy and feeling really dissatisfied with his job. And he just made this decision that, honestly, it sounds like something out of a movie.
Which was?
He decided he needed to go everywhere, eat everything.
Go everywhere, eat everything. That's quite a resolution.
Isn't it? It's phenomenal.
Because it's more than just like a goal. It feels like this deeply personal declaration, The kind of thing you decide when you feel like you have to, tear down the old life to build something completely new.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our initial takeaway for you listening right now is this.
Yeah.
This isn't just us reading off a celebrity judge's CV.
No. Yeah.
This is a deep dive into how a really radical, intentional change, one that was fueled by grief, actually, and this drive for knowledge through food, how that can create a whole new professional identity, a globally recognized one after hitting middle age.
It's a fascinating story of transformation. Okay, let's really get into the scale of this change because it wasn't small. For decades, Simon Majumdar was fully established in publishing. He wasn't just starting out. He was successful, established in a pretty demanding field.
That's exactly right. His whole professional identity before food was built around books, around words, around judging written narratives. But the sources, they're really clear. This stable career, it just completely hit a wall around 2007.
And the trigger wasn't just getting bored with the job.
No, not at all. It was deeply personal, traumatic even. His mother became very ill and then she passed away. And this led to, understandably, a really deep depression. And alongside that, he just realized he'd completely lost any joy or passion for his publishing work.
Right. That makes sense. It's that kind of moment, isn't it? Grief forcing you to take stock of everything.
Yeah.
Lots of people reevaluate after loss, but wow, not many make a pivot quite like this.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, when you look at the skills. Because think about it. As a book publisher, what was he doing?
He was selecting, curating, criticizing stories.
Right. He was a curator, a critic of narratives. He understood structure. He understood audience. He was literally an expert in deciding what worked and what didn't in a manuscript, what mattered.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
He basically took those core skills, that editorial eye, the need for structure, the ability to assess and critique, and he just applied them wholesale to global food.
Food became the new text.
Precisely. He wasn't just, eating randomly. He was editing the world through his palate, in a way. That big resolution in 2007, go everywhere, eat everything. It was like he wrote a new commissioning brief, but for his own life.
Okay, but let's talk practicalities for a second. Because that phrase, go everywhere, eat everything, it sounds amazing, but that's incredibly expensive, right? And demanding.
Oh, absolutely.
Does the source material give any hint about how he actually funded this? Did his publishing career give him enough of a cushion to just take off on this massive global mission before he started writing about it and making money that way?
That's a really important question. And yeah, the pivot wasn't just like a reckless jump into the unknown. It seems like it was a calculated risk built on that professional foundation he already had.
Okay.
While the sources don't give us, exact bank statements or anything,
Naturally.
the fact that he was a successful established publisher does imply he likely had the financial means, the cushion, like you said, to actually support himself during that initial period of intense self-directed travel and research.
Right. This wasn't a 20-something with a backpack.
Exactly. This was a successful, middle-aged professional, essentially funding his own very unique global education in food. His food career really kicked off after he turned 40. So it wasn't just a minor tweak. It was a complete overhaul driven by this deep emotional need.
That makes it even more impressive, actually. It shows that kind of radical change isn't always just about impulse. Sometimes it's about strategically using the resources and skills you already have for something new we're passionate about.
Well put.
But to really understand the go everywhere part, we need to look at his roots. Because they're already quite global, aren't they? A real mix.
Oh, definitely. A beautiful mosaic,
Yes.
as the material suggests. And that mix undoubtedly played a role in his interest in the world. He was born April 7th, 1964, and grew up in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, in England. So that's his British core.
Standard enough so far.
But the family background immediately brings in that global dimension. It's this blend of cultures that probably made him naturally curious about the world's cuisines long before he made it his job.
And you see that blend clearly in his parents, right? Gwen and Pratip.
Exactly. His mother, Gwen John, she was from South Wales,
Right.
worked as a nurse.
Okay. Welsh roots.
And his father, Pratip Majumdar, Pat, he was born in Calcutta, India.
Calcutta, wow.
Yeah, and he's an orthopedic consultant. He even worked for the local football club, Rotherham United FC.
So you've got South Wales, Calcutta, and industrial South Yorkshire all converging in one family. That's quite a foundation.
It really is. It's like an early map of the kind of cultural fusion he'd spent his life exploring through food. And there's a lovely little detail about how they met, too.
Oh, yeah.
His parents met when they were both working at the Royal Gwent Hospital back in the 1950s.
A Welsh nurse and an Indian doctor. That's a very classic post-war British story, in a way.
It really is. A story of cultural mixing that grounded his later global adventures in something very specific and, very British, ironically. This background must have given him an inbuilt appreciation for different origins, different flavors, way before he started doing it professionally.
And he certainly didn't just stay in Rotherham or even the UK. His food career eventually took him across the Atlantic in a big way.
Absolutely. He deepened his connection to America significantly. He's now actually a British-American citizen.
Oh, I didn't realize he'd naturalized.
Yep. He became a U.S. citizen on September 17th, 2014, and he maintains this really demanding, properly transatlantic life based in both Los Angeles and London.
Wow, that's a commute.
Tell me about it. But if you connect that back to his career, his personal geography kind of mirrors his professional focus, doesn't it? Always global, always embracing multiple identities, both national and cultural.
And that global theme carried into his personal life, too, adding another layer. He met his wife, Sybil Villanueva, while he was on his travels.
That's right, back in 2010. He was traveling in Brazil, pursuing that Eat Everything mission, and he met Sybil.
And Sybil is Filipino-American.
Correct. Filipino-American. So yet another cultural dimension added to this already pretty complex life story.
It really stands out, doesn't it, how his personal connections seem to reinforce the very mission he set out on? He went looking for global experiences.
And found a life partner who embodies that global heritage herself. It's a really neat synthesis when you think about it. His wife's Filipino-American background, his own Welsh-Indian-British mix, their shared time in the U.S. and the U.K., it feels like the pursuit of everywhere genuinely led him to find, home in multiple places.
Okay, so we've got the emotional driver, that 2007 pivot, and we've established he likely had the means from his publishing career to get started. The next big question is, how did he actually turn that personal mission, that intense travel and eating, into, real bankable expertise? How did he build a platform strong enough to land him those TV judging gigs?
Well, what's really fascinating here is that his first foothold, his initial credibility, it wasn't built on TV at all. It came from something much more gritty and authentic, a collaborative digital platform that actually started before his major TV appearances really took off.
Okay, what was that?
We're talking about a UK food blog called Dos Hermanos.
Dos Hermanos,
Uh,
the two
uh,
brothers, right.
Exactly. He co-authored that blog from 2006 right through to 2012.
Ah, so that timing lines up perfectly with that initial post-crisis globe-trotting phase we were just discussing. That's key, isn't it?
It's absolutely crucial because this was happening right in the kind of sweet spot of that early food blogging explosion.
Yeah.
This wasn't slick, network-produced content.
Oh.
This was raw passion, sharp writing, often quite witty, delivered straight to the public online.
Yeah.
And the partnership aspect is important too. His older brother, Robin,
The computer whiz brother.
that's the one described in the source.
Yeah.
Robin handled the tech side. And apparently it was a really successful collaboration. They built up a significant readership, thousands of readers a day at times.
So this blog was basically his public training ground. Before he was getting edited for TV audiences, Dos Hermanos was where he could develop and sharpen that critical but also really enthusiastic voice.
Precisely. He was building his audience organically, proving his chops in real time.
Yeah.
That blog was absolutely crucial. It gave him a significant platform, established his voice, his expertise, and just his sheer, genuine love for exploring food globally. It proved he wasn't just, a tourist taking food pics.
Right.
He was a serious writer with a real point of view on food culture. It's a great example, really, of how those newer media platforms can sometimes let people bypass the traditional gatekeepers and launch a whole new career path.
And from that strong digital base, it seems he branched out pretty quickly into more established mainstream media outlets too, showed a lot of versatility.
He really did. And that versatility is a key measure of his growing authority, I think. His writing started appearing across different types of media. He was doing sophisticated food pieces for serious papers like The Guardian and The Independent over in the UK.
Okay, highbrow stuff.
Yeah. But then he also crossed over, writing food and lifestyle content for places like The Daily Beast and even AskMen.com.
Interesting range. The fact he could write engagingly for both, a respected national newspaper and a more mainstream men's lifestyle site, that says a lot about his ability to communicate his expertise without being stuffy or too academic.
Totally. He clearly understood how to tailor his knowledge for different audiences.
Which is a skill in itself.
Absolutely. It helps cement him as a serious, adaptable food voice.
Yeah.
And all that writing, the blog, the articles, it eventually funneled into his full-length books. And if you just look at the titles of his books, they practically map out his whole personal journey in 3 key stages.
Okay, let's run through those titles because, yeah, they really do seem to trace the narrative arc we've been talking about.
Right. So the first one, which you assume chronicles that initial go everywhere, eat everything mission, is just called Eat My Globe.
Eat My Globe. Bold title.
Yeah.
Captures the ambition right there.
Doesn't it? It's the record of that initial global quest.
Then after that comes Eating for Britain, which is interesting. After traveling the whole world, he turns his focus back home.
Exactly. It focuses on the cuisine of his home country. Reminds you that even with all the global travel and exotic foods, his British roots are still central.
And maybe a bit of a defense of British food, too, which sometimes gets a bad rap.
I think that's often part of it, yeah. A historical exploration, maybe a subtle defense. It grounds his authority not just in far-flung places, but in the familiar, too.
Okay, and the third one?
The third one is Fed, White, and Blue.
Ah, connecting directly to becoming an American citizen.
Precisely. It ties straight back to his life as a transatlantic citizen, documenting his experience of becoming American, which happened in 2014. And it sounds like it's about understanding America through its food, its regional cuisines.
So his writing career isn't just like a side effect of his travels. It is the story of his transformation laid out.
Pretty much.
The global quest in Eat My Globe, reconnecting with his Britishness in Eating for Britain, and then embracing his new American identity in Fed, White, and Blue. It really gives you, the listener, a clear structure for understanding those 3 big phases of his life after that huge 2007 decision.
Okay, so the blog built the foundation, the writing established the expertise, and that dramatic personal story made him relatable. The next step, logically, was television. But that's a big leap, right? Turning writing success into a TV career requires, well, a certain presence, charisma, and authority on camera.
And he seemed to make that transition pretty smoothly. His judging career on Food Network, it's really extensive. He became a familiar face quite quickly, I think, because he brought that mix of sharp critique and genuine enthusiasm that he'd already honed online.
So when did he start appearing regularly?
He was a judge on Iron Chef America pretty early on, from 2010 to 2012. And around the same time, he was also on the next Iron Chef. Those were big, high-profile shows right out of the gate.
Yeah, those are serious judging's gigs. High pressure, need to be articulate about complex flavors very quickly. Definitely. Then he became a real regular on some of the long-running, super popular competition shows. He was on Cutthroat Kitchen a lot, from 2013 right through to 2016.
Ah, yes, Alton Brown's chaotic masterpiece.
Exactly. And he judged frequently on Beat Bobby Flay between 2014 and 2017. He also popped up on All-Star Academy back in 2015.
So he was really embedded in that Food Network competition world.
Deeply embedded.
Yeah.
And he still has a presence now, occasionally judging on guys' grocery games. But what's really interesting about his more recent TV work is his specific role on the network's big flagship competition, Tournament of Champions.
Guy Fieri's bracket-style cook-off, what does he do there?
He's not a main judge in the same way. He acts as a floor reporter during the blind taste test segments, working alongside Guy.
Oh, that's a perfect role for him. Because in a blind taste test, you can't rely on how it looks or the story behind it.
Exactly.
It's purely about sensory analysis, deduction, impartiality. Requires huge focus.
It plays right into his strengths, those refined critical skills. But this actually brings us to probably the most surprising and maybe the most intellectually interesting part of this whole story.
Okay.
The very real, very significant culinary constraints that he has to operate under as a food judge, which is highly unusual.
Constraint for someone whose job is literally tasting food in high-stakes competitions.
Yep. He has two really specific and quite severe restrictions. Allergies.
Allergies. What is he allergic to?
Get this. He is severely allergic to coffee and oysters.
Coffee and oysters. Wow, okay, hold on. Coffee. That's used in rubs, moles, desserts, sometimes as a bitter note in savory dishes.
All time, especially with red meat chocolate.
And oysters. That's a major seafood protein, a classic fine dining ingredient. That's a serious limitation for a food critic.
Isn't it? It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about his job. And it raises really profound questions about how competitive food judging even works under those conditions.
So how does it work? Because the allergy is severe, you said.
Right. So the rule, apparently, is absolute in these competitions. If a chef prepares a dish that includes either coffee or oysters, he simply will not taste it. Period.
He just abstains.
He has to. Which means, think about the logistics for the production crew.
Oh my gosh, they must have to track every ingredient meticulously just for him, ensure absolutely no cross-contamination.
Exactly. It's a huge undertaking behind the scenes. But let's think about the critical implications. A judge's role is to assess the chef's intention and how well they executed it.
Right.
If a dish has, say, a coffee rub on the main protein or an oyster element that's key to the flavor profile, how can he possibly judge that dish accurately if he can't taste those central components?
That's the million-dollar question. Does it just invalidate his critique on those dishes?
Well, this is where it gets fascinating, because the constraint seems to force a shift in his critical approach. He can't rely on just, the overall flavor impact like other judges might.
So what does he rely on?
Think about it. If that coffee-rubbed venison with an oyster foam lands in front of him, and he physically cannot taste those main elements, he's forced to rely almost entirely on everything else. His secondary senses, the perfection of the other parts of the dish.
He's like the technique.
Exactly. He has to become laser-focused on the technical execution of all the non-allergic components. The precision of the knife work, the seasoning on the vegetables, the texture and consistency of the sauce, the exact temperature of the protein, the overall aroma.
So the things he can assess, he has to assess with maybe even more scrutiny than other judges.
That seems to be the implication. His known limitation doesn't necessarily weaken his authority. It forces him to sharpen his critique of the elements that others might perhaps gloss over if the main flavor is fantastic.
Huh. So the allergy, ironically, might make his palate more focused on technical detail, even though it's constrained overall.
That's the idea. The constraint drives a different kind of refined critique. It's a really powerful lesson, isn't it? That limitations can sometimes actually increase focus and specialization. If a chef sends out a beautiful plate, but it has an oyster he can't eat, he has to judge the concept and the execution of everything else on that plate with exceptional rigor. He has to really double down on the rest to justify his score. It gives him a unique perspective which, in a panel of judges, could be incredibly valuable.
That's a really stunning way to think about it. It completely flips what seems like a weakness into a potential strength, highlighting the intellectual depth he brings.
Okay, so beyond judging, Has he done other TV appearances? Things that maybe connect back more to that original Eat Everything mission?
Oh, absolutely. He wasn't just confined to the judging chair. He was a guest on The Best Thing I Ever Ate quite a bit back in 2010, 2011.
Ah, I love that show. Where did he feature?
He highlighted spots in some predictable places like California and Louisiana, big food destinations, but also, perhaps more surprisingly, Kansas.
Kansas. Interesting.
Yeah. It reinforced that his food journey wasn't just about hitting the world's Michelin-starred capitals, but about finding authentic, great food everywhere. Regional gems. And didn't he do some UK television too, early on?
Yep, there's a mention of an early guest spot as a critic on a show called Market Kitchen in the UK, which ties nicely back to his British roots and that early success with the Dos Hermanos blog.
It all connects.
It really does.
Yeah.
And finally, there's that consistent thread of his heritage, which comes through in his known culinary preferences. He's widely known to have a real deep love for Indian cuisine.
Which links straight back to his father, born in Calcutta.
Exactly. It feels like the one cuisine where his expertise isn't just learned through travel and study, but it's also, inherent, part of his DNA. It brings his whole global palate journey full circle, in a way finding comfort and profound knowledge in the flavors of his own heritage. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the incredible journey of Simon Majumdar we've traced here. We started with those foundational roots, Rotherham, the mixed British, Welsh, and Indian heritage.
Right. Then came that successful but ultimately unfulfilling career as a book publisher, which set the stage for the big change.
The huge pivot point in 2007, that defining Eat Everything mission, born out of grief after losing his mother, which completely rerouted his life after the age of 40.
Yeah, a truly radical shift. And that journey was then documented and validated through his successful writing, the pioneering Dos Hermanos blog with his brother, the articles, the books.
Which ultimately led to him becoming this globally recognized television personality, a fixture on our screens.
And fascinatingly, achieving that recognition while navigating those very specific and quite severe judging constraints, the allergies to coffee and oysters. Constraints that, as we discussed, likely forced him to develop an even sharper, more technical, critical eye.
So the final really powerful takeaway for you, the listener, to hold on to is this. His transformation wasn't luck. It wasn't just a gradual career shift.
No.
It was a deliberate, radical reinvention, sparked by a major personal crisis and driven by a single, incredibly bold resolution he made for himself.
It really proves that profound professional change is possible, truly possible, no matter your age or how stable your current situation seems.
It's a massive lesson in personal agency, isn't it? And it suggests that sometimes the deepest professional knowledge comes not from textbooks, but from actively seeking out intense sensory experiences, maybe even in the wake of personal challenges.
Which brings us to that final provocative thought we want to leave you with today. It circles right back to those constraints, the allergies.
Okay.
How does defining expertise, especially in a field as huge and subjective as global food, actually become sharper, more focused, maybe even more insightful, when it's shaped by deeply personal limitations, whether those limits are emotional, like grief, or physical, like severe allergies?
Yeah. How does not being able to taste everything potentially sharpen the critique of what you can taste? Does it force a deeper reliance on technical skill, on conceptual understanding?
Exactly. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does every expert in some way benefit from having certain lines they can't cross, certain things they can't do? Something for you to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the extraordinary journey of Simon Majumdar, from publisher to palate.